Welcome to this Automation World video podcast sponsored by Schneider Electric. This podcast is focused on enterprise asset performance management software and how it's used to maximize economic returns. I'm David Greenfield, Director of Content at Automation World, and joining me for this discussion is Kim Cousteau, Director of Asset Management for the software business at Schneider Electric. Now, asset management has, for years, proven to be a sweet spot for manufacturers when it comes to cost savings and boosting the bottom line, as well as boosting productivity. Now, as a result, it's often a principal application of operations improvement software. Now, with these points in mind, we'll look into how trends like the Internet of Things is impacting asset management strategies, what kinds of industries typically use enterprise asset management software, and how the merger of IT and operations technologies is affecting asset management today. So Kim, considering that the asset management software market has been so defined and redefined over the past several years, tell me how you, and of course Schneider Electric, define enterprise asset management as it applies to industry today.
So organizations today are trying to achieve the most they can out of their assets and looking for that last mile of efficiency. And the way that they can do that is through the capture and storage of information and then the analysis of that information to drive an action and to visualize that in a KPI methodology so that they can measure and continuously improve. So what we do with Schneider Electric's Enterprise Asset Performance Management solution is we encompass the collection and storage of the data, the analysis of that data, and then the actions that are subsequent to understanding that information. And by having all of that in a single platform, we can deliver value for our customers in that area.
So from that vantage point, how do you see the trends around the industrial Internet of Things affecting Schneider Electric's enterprise asset performance management software?
We have been collecting and analyzing data for years from our assets and driving a strategy from that. So with the advent of IoT and the proliferation of that in the market, it has driven down the cost of the collection devices and the sensors that collect this information, and it allows us to have a vast amount of data that we can now drive context in our maintenance strategy. So we're leveraging that conditional information about the asset to determine the best course of action and to identify early failure. And when you can identify early failure, you can save money, right? You have reduced downtime, you eliminate the risk of downtime, you reduce costs, and you can increase the utilization of that asset.
So how do you relate this to your customers' asset maintenance and reliability programs?
Our customers today are at varying levels of maturity when it comes to a maintenance strategy. So the enterprise APM approach is meant to be a platform where they can build. So we deliver on the foundational level so that they can handle the regular maintenance that has to occur. We enable the preventive maintenance approach for a much more planned look at the work that needs to be done, and then we can take a subset of those assets that are critical to the process, and we can put algorithms and rules and do a conditional-based approach. And then from there, we can also enable them to have a predictive approach using models and machine learning. The idea here is that if you can get early failure warnings, that you can avoid cost, you can reduce the expense of maintenance and materials, and labor and materials, and you can improve the reliability of the asset. And as soon as you can improve the reliability of the asset, then you're improving the process and the performance of the operation.
And speaking of your customers, what industries typically use enterprise asset management software?
The type of industry that is most interested in an enterprise APM solution would be those with very capital-intensive investments where the risk and cost of failure is high. So we typically see this in oil and gas and refining, also in power and in water and wastewater.
Now, all of the industries you mentioned working with operate with significant amounts of installed legacy technology. So how does Schneider Electric's Enterprise Asset Performance Management software deal with this scenario in terms of integration with other systems?
One advantage of our Enterprise APM platform is that our solution allows us to integrate into an existing infrastructure. So when organizations or customers have made investments into certain platforms or products, the Enterprise APM can fit into that strategy and continue to deliver value on their current investment. Schneider Electric is the only provider of a complete, comprehensive, end-to-end enterprise asset performance solution.
Now, one more question about your asset-intensive client base. What specific value are they looking to get from enterprise asset management software beyond general cost savings?
The benefit of our enterprise APM solution is many. The idea of understanding the asset itself and the health of that asset as it is running in the environment that you have it running in allows us to maintain it in a more efficient way, but it also allows us to watch for identifications of degradation so that we can see when that asset is going to fail, and we can alert to that failure, potential failure. So the benefit of an early warning on a potential failure is that you can plan better. So you can make sure that you have the right people and the right equipment and the right materials available to make the correction or to improve the way that that asset is running. That saves you on costs, of course. It will avoid cost of downtime. So anytime you can plan for work, it saves on that. And then also improves the reliability of the plant, which then turns into a bottom line improvement.
Okay, one final question, Kim. Can you address how enterprise asset management fits into the broad industry trend around the merging of IT and operations technologies?
One of the important things of the convergence of IT and OT is the demographics of the workforce today. So, it used to be that someone had 30 years experience in a plant and they could see or feel that something wasn't right in an asset. And unfortunately, that's not the case today. These people are retiring and moving on to other things. And so we've got young people that are coming in and they don't have that context. They don't have the knowledge and experience of 30 years of how that asset should run. So they need that data. They need the information coming from the asset and the sensor itself to identify how it's doing, how that asset is running. And using that data and applying some analytics, we're able to help them determine that something's not quite right with that asset and they need to take an inspection or review possible early warning failure. And that's where we can begin to give the return on investment because we can help them understand the condition of the asset. And a perfect example of that is a very large energy company in the United States with over 60 plants has implemented our enterprise APM solution. And within one early failure warning, saved just over $7 million in cost avoidance.
Well, all right. Thank you, Kim, and thank you for joining us for this video podcast. For more information, please visit the website shown here.